Anselmus Cur Deus Homo. Book 2nd, Chapter 17. How he did not die of necessity, though he could not be born except as destined to suffer death. Boso, thus far it is well. But there is yet another matter that needs to be looked into. For we have said before that his death was not to be a matter of necessity, yet now we see that his mother was purified by the power of his death, when without this he could not have been born of her. Born how? Then was not his death necessity, when he could not have been, except in view of future death? For if he were not to die, the Virgin of whom he was born could not be pure, since this could only be effected by true faith in his death. And if she were not pure, he could not be born of her. If therefore his death to be not a necessary consequence of his being born of the Virgin, he never could have been born of her at all. But this is an absurdity. Anselm, if you had carefully noted the remarks made above, you will easily have discovered in them, I think, the answer to your question. Boso, I see not how. Anselm, did we not find, when considering the question whether he would like, that there were two senses of the word power in regard to it, the one referring to his disposition, the other to the act itself, and that, though having the power to lie, he was so constituted by nature as not to wish to lie, and therefore deserve praise to his holiness in maintaining the truth? Also, it is so. Anselm, in like manner, with regard to the preservation of his life, there is the power of persevering and the power of wishing to preserve it. And when the question is asked whether the same God-man could preserve his life as never to die, we must not doubt that he always had the power to preserve his life, though he could not wish to do so the purpose of escaping death. And since this disposition, which forever prevents him from wishing this, arises from himself, he lays down his life not of necessity, but of free authority. Boso, but those powers were not in all respects similar, the power to lie and the power to preserve his life. For if he wished to lie, he would of course be able to, but if he wished to avoid the other, he could no more do it than he could avoid being what he is. For he became man for this purpose, and it was on the faith of his coming death that he could receive it from a virgin, as you said above. Anselm, as you think that he could not die, or that his death was necessary because he could not avoid being what he was, so you can assert that he could not wish to avoid death, or that he wished to die of necessity because he could not change the constitution of his being, for he did not become man in order that he should die, any more than for this purpose that he should wish to die. However, as you ought not to say that he could not help wishing to die, or that it was of necessary that he wished to die, it's equally improper to say that he could not avoid death, or that he died of necessity. Boso, yes, since dying and wishing to die are included in the same mode of reasoning, both would seem to fall under a like necessity. Anselm, who freely wished to become man, that by the same unchanging desire he should suffer death, and that the Virgin from whom that man should be born might be pure, though true confidence in the certainty of this. Also, God, the Son of God. Anselm, what is not above sound? that no desire of God is at all constrained, but that it freely maintains itself in his own unchangeableness, as often as it is said that he does anything necessarily. Also, it has been clearly shown. But we see, on the other hand, that what God unchangeably wishes cannot avoid being so, but takes place of necessity. Wherefore, if God wishes that man to die, he could but die. Answer: because the Son of God took the nature of man with the desire, viz., that he should suffer death. You prove it necessary that this man should not be able to avoid death. Also, so I perceive. Answer: has it not in like manner appeared from the things which we have spoken, that the Son of God and the man whose person he took were so united that the same being should be both God and man, the Son of God and the Son of Virgin and the Son of the Virgin. Also it is so. Answer: therefore the same man could possibly but die and avoid death. Also I cannot deny it. Answer: since then the will of God does nothing by any necessity, but of his own power, and the will of that man was the same as the will of God. He died not necessarily, but only of his own power. Also, to your argument I cannot object, for neither your proposition nor your inference can I invalidate in the best. But yet this thing which I have mentioned always recurs to my mind, that he wishes to avoid that he could no more do it than he could escape existence. For it must have been fixed that he was to die. For had it not been true that he was about to die, faith in his coming become death would not have existed, by which the Virgin who gave him birth and many others also were cleansed from their sin. Wherefore, if he could avoid death, he could make untrue what was true. Answer: what was it is true before he died, that he was certainly to die. Also, because this was his free and unchangeable desire. Answer: if then, as you say, he could not avoid death because he was certainly to die, and was on this account certainly to die, because it was his free and unchangeable desire, it is clear that his inability to avoid death is nothing else but his fixed choice to die. Also, this is so, but whatever be the reason, it still remains certain that he could not avoid death, but that it was a necessary thing from him to die. Answer: you make a great ado about nothing, or as the saying is, you stumble at a straw. Also, are you not forgetting my reply to the excuses you made at the beginning of our discussion, viz., that you should explain the subject not as to learned men, but to me and my fellow inquirers. Suffer me then to question you as my slowness and dullness require, so that as you have begun thus far, you may go on to settle all your childish doubts.